mobility strategy for the coming year, what do you think should be the focus for global mobility and immigration? So I'd like to also, as you start, I'd like to pull in and spotlight Elena because I know she has a crystal ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say sort of three things to look at. First of all is absolutely, policy. I've seen these little buzzwords or pop-up policies, which I thought was a great way of describing it. Just short-term policies for this period. So how do you control your staff and where they work and where they're going to go, and how do you internally approve that? I think so. Looking at policy, looking at tracking technology, and looking at year end. And I think I know that's sort of 2020 focused. I think there's very much a sense that this will continue, this sort of, temporary relocation, working from anywhere. But I think a lot of the surveys and clients I've been dealing with, there is a sense that 2021, Q1, Q2, more likely, returning to some semblance of normality. But let's face it, even though we've been, as a profession, and it's shown what a great mobility professionals we all are, we problem solve, we deal with the issues, we get everything hurled at us, and we're sitting there going, how are we going to do this? And we all work together, and we've made it work. And I think a lot of this will continue in this sort of, there'll be work from anywhere, more remote working, but I think it will be some return probably towards Q2 next year as it was.
Great. Well, David, as much as we love listening to your New Jersey accent, we are going to move into Elena on a couple of immigration updates. So Elena, much has impacted the immigration process this year, much more than in many previous recent years of history. Normal complexities result from current political regimes, but now we're complicated by COVID, and let's not forget it's fiscal year end coming up, and oh yeah, we've got that national election coming up as well. So what kind of guidance and what's the latest as you look into that crystal ball that you and I have talked about?
Well, thank you, Beverly, for that great question. I want to kind of pick up on the last question that David referenced with policy development. And I can only say is the way to look at your policies is to be agile about it. Long gone are the policies that are super rigid, that are set up to be if this, then that. There needs to be a little bit of flexibility and an assumption that the location may vary depending on how employers set up their global mobility policies. With that, just know that in the future, the obligation for compliance will not change. And employers now have to be a little bit smarter with coordinating with one another across departments and tracking things that are due and things that need to be recorded and reported, especially with the immigration process.
Okay. How, as we look at the balance of this year, what do you foresee anything happening, for instance, fiscal year beginning? What's going to happen on October 2nd? Do you know if there are going to be other changes to the rules and regulations or requirements for immigration procedures, the process itself? Can you foresee?
Absolutely. I actually have a visual. I don't know if I can screen share at the moment. We could try. Oh, I think we're working.
Yes, I see it. I hope everybody can.
Yeah. To answer your question, yes. Next Friday is a critical date for those who sponsor employment cases for their employees. There's going to be new filing fees effective by USCIS. On an aggregate, they're going to increase by 20%. However, it's not a big jump this time. But I would like to point out that several forms are changing. For instance, the Cornerstone form, the I-129, which is the form to request work visas, L visas, a myriad of things. Actually, it could be up to 20 different statuses requested by this one form. It's now going to get separated out so that if you're requesting an H-1B, it'll be the H form, or it'll be the form that I-129L or O, specifically to the status you're requesting, with a separate fee. So there's no longer one fee, one form, but many forms for many purposes with varying fees. Now, several employers are anxiously awaiting a preview of these forms since it's just coming out next week. However, those forms are kind of caught up in the OMB review process and have not been released to USCIS. So in order for a government agency to release any new forms, it has to go through the bureaucratic government process. And it's in the time of COVID and when everyone is working from home, I'm sure that is part of the backlog in getting these new forms distributed. So maybe it'll come out on midnight, October 2nd, maybe not, but understand that it will be effective.
Okay. In 30 seconds, can you talk about life after November 3rd as we're getting close on time, and we'll circle back on this if there is more.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do have a few predictions. My prediction is that we'll continue to have backlogs, which make it very difficult to process your cases or have a predictable timeline with when your cases are ready. They're, with COVID having spikes in different places around the world, especially in the US, expect more embassies to have closures. That's going to impact all of your workforce. So your Americans who are working abroad, as well as non-US nationals trying to get into the US. And we will continue to have experiences with appointments being made and canceled at the last minute. So lots of frustration ahead with planning and trying to schedule mobility. So for the employers on this session, just understand that it's going to be really hard predicting a start date or an effective date of an assignment. But as I said earlier, your compliance obligations will continue, and try to be digital and electronic whenever